Have you seen the TikToker? That's the reincarnation of Hitler.
Oh my God, that guy.
It's got he's got a septum ring that looks like the mustache.
Oh my God, that's a septum ring?
Yeah, it's a septum ring.
So
it's a
weird.
Giant hoop.
Ew.
Yeah. So, and then he's got the birthmark right here, and he's like, you can see this is exactly where I got shot.
Yeah, that's the bullshit he said. Oh my God, and somebody believes that. People believe that.
People believe that. You know why? Because it's on the internet.
Because the con artists like Ed and Lorraine Warren started this shit. God damn.
Police are on the scene of a deadly shooting.
Graphic orgies of blood and violence.
Mutilation, decapitation, torture. Does that sound entertaining? More blood than a blood bank. Have we got your attention?
Unbelievable crime at the hands of satanic cults.
Despite dozens of tips, help from federal agents, and a $40,000 reward, investigators say there are few solid leads.
If you find this disturbing, just wait, because there is a whole other dimension.
You are now listening to A Morning Cup of Chaos.
So for many of you that do not know the story, I don't know what rock you're living under, but figure the fuck out because your life has some serious fucking issues. But today we're going to be checking out the story of the Lutzes and the story of the DeFeos. We're going to start with the DeFeo family. We're going to get into everything with their murder. And the reason why we're doing all these spooky alien topics right now is because we have somebody that we're going to be interviewing at the end. Or no, it's April.
It's next week.
Next week? Yeah, it's next week.
Because it's April 1st tomorrow.
But yeah, we have Dylan and I are going to be interviewing somebody from the Travel and Discovery Channel. Brian Irish, he has been a paranormal investigator for the last like 15 fucking years. So we decided we wanted to get spooky with the show. I know it's not in October, but we'll get into more fucked up shit come around, Halloween and stuff. But right now we're going to do ghosts and demons and aliens and all that fun stuff before we get to the interview. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready for an entire hour of your time wasted.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I do.
You do?
I do. I had questionable experiences at my last house. Riley can attest to this stuff. I had a fire alarm that would go off constantly, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, just randomly go off. The batteries would be changed, and it was just this one fire alarm.
Yep.
So we changed it. We got a brand new one, put it up there. Still did the same thing. So we were like, all right, whatever, not a big deal. It's just a broken fire alarm. Take out the fucking batteries, throw it in a drawer, gone. Cool. So there have been times where we would be upstairs and the TV would be off and it'd be dead silent, and you could hear walking on our hardwood floors, like stomping almost. And I'm like, hey, Steph, do you hear that? And she's like, yeah. Did you lock the door? Yeah, I locked the door. Okay, well, I locked the back door when I took out Willow, so I know it can't be somebody. There's no way that there's somebody in my house right now. What the fuck is that? I'm not going to get out of bed and look at it because that's how white people die.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So, and then my last experience, this is all within the same house, within a year. The last experience I had was probably the most freakiest time. I didn't have any of the cats. It was just the dog, Stephanie, and I. It was just the three of us. So we lived in this house, and as we're moving stuff into this house, I'm on the middle floor. There's a upstairs, middle floor, basement. So I'm on the middle floor. Stephanie's in the basement doing laundry or moving stuff around. She's got a lot of cosplay stuff, so I'm sure she was like unpacking or something. I don't know. I wasn't down there. So I was on the middle floor. I heard a large ass crash, and then it sounded like somebody ran down the first group of stairs because it was loud. They were loud steps. They were
Right.
old wooden.
Like actually heard somebody like
dude,
run like
dude.
okay.
So I said, "Hey, Steph, what happened? Are you okay?" And I didn't hear anything. I'm like, "Hey, Steph, are you okay?" And I start heading that way, and she runs up the stairs, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay?" What do you mean? Am I okay? Why are you downstairs? What happened upstairs?
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I immediately we talked about it. We kind of just passed it off as like nothing. Like I didn't question it. Riley's been over a couple times. He's seen the fire alarm just randomly go off. Like you'd be downstairs in the main floor, and all of a sudden it would go off, and you're like, "What the fuck? What the fuck, man? What the fuck?" So yeah. So we've had experiences. I've had experiences. I've heard voices at Riley's old place. I was staying the night, and I was sleeping in his office, and I heard it sounded like whispering, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Because it's like 4:00 in the morning. I'm the only one awake right now. Like, I know I'm not hallucinating. Like, I
was gonna say, are you sure you're not
yeah,
schizophrenic?
and I swear to God, I swear to fucking God. I mean, I might be. I don't know. I don't like really keep track of what I do during the day. I could just be out there doing shit. But like, I think I'm pretty sane. I'm pretty. Do I like blatantly go out and be like, yeah, I saw some ghosts, I'm gonna like make my whole life about this and like try to capture them? No, like
That'd be sick.
we'd
still be friends if you did. I just
know.
want you to know that.
It's yeah. I like watching them, but do I want to be a part of that? No. We actually, because of all those events, I actually tried to like download an app, like a ghost talking app onto my phone.
Oh, nice.
And it wouldn't go off anywhere. Like I'd be at work and it wouldn't talk to me, but when I was at home, it would say things, and I'm like, I can't tell if this is bullshit because it's a fucking phone app and it can tell where I'm at most of the time or whatever. But
Right.
like, that's been it though. What about you?
I do. I like to believe that there's. I don't know like necessarily what I believe they are. I don't know if I believe they're like, like I don't know if I believe that like your family members like watch over you and shit like that when they die and stuff like that. But I feel like there is like almost like a malevolent. You know what I'm trying to say?
No.
Malevolent.
Malevolent.
Yes. Like energy out there that does like shit. And it's not like a single person or a single thing. It's just like an amalgamation of all the like spiritual energy after like just aeons of death and like shit like that.
Yeah, it's just build up of energy.
And like I do like kind of believe that like some spirits can like manifest stronger, obviously, so then there are like single beings, but like I believe that like a lot of like that spooky shit that just like happens randomly is like just a thing. It doesn't have like a purpose as much as they just for some reason like a spike of energy happens at that time and it's just like boom, and something happens in our world too. Like it like breaks the veil almost for like just a second or like a few minutes,
So I want to pose this question to our listeners. If you have some kind of paranormal story, I would love to be able to read it. We're gonna have to take this part out because we're recording tomorrow. So like, no one's gonna fucking be able to fucking answer this shit.
We're putting it on Facebook.
So if you have any kind of paranormal experiences, why don't you go ahead and email us at metamisfortune@gmail.com. I would love to be able to read them, be able to talk to you about like your experiences.
We'll just do it for like a
Patreon?
A Patreon or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Actually, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
If you have a paranormal story and you want it to be read on air and us to talk about it and discuss it, go ahead and email us at metamisfortune@gmail.com. We will definitely open them once we get enough of them. We'll start a Patreon. We'll get a Patreon episode and we'll read those and we'll discuss, your experiences. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. You got one more thing?
I do want to add something because this was freaky.
What?
So remember when we first talked about doing Amityville, like probably 2 months back now?
Mm-hmm.
Every night in that house that I lived in for the last, I think, month and a half, I would wake up at 3:15 a.m. just like fucking George Lutz said he did. And I don't know if it was like me subconsciously like doing it, but I would just wake up and I would just fucking go downstairs and I would eat something random every fucking night. And then I would just go right back upstairs and I would always leave like
Is that
if it was
Dylan's
fruit
special
snacks,
snack time, bro?
dude, if it was like I don't know if it was subconscious and it was so weird, dude, because I'm watching the movie and I'm like 3:15. I'm like, you always get some at 3:15. I'm like, whoa, interesting. I'm like, that's such a cool fact as a movie watcher. And then I fucking started doing it and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'd wake up and it'd be 3:15 and I'd be like, no, what? No.
So I have 2 points to make to you right now. The first one is going to be synchronicity. Synchronicity is such a common thing when it comes to the human brain that when we start to notice things, we start pointing them out more. So like 11:11, you see 11:11 on a clock, you're like, it's always 11:11.
Like 4:20, baby.
Yeah, 4:20. Yeah,
That's awesome.
4:20 is another one of those things. It's synchronicities. So like you start to notice those things more. So like there might have been a night where you like slept in and that didn't happen. But that 3:15, that one time that you woke up, you're like, damn, it's 3:15 again. What the fuck is going on with me? I must have a ghost up my asshole.
Dude, it was so scary, though. I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, I'm going to pull George Lutz and I'm going to kill my family.
This is how it begins.
Dude, because in the movie, they do it so much better than the book does it. Oh, my God. I would have loved Because they just don't do like, oh, it was an undisclosed event that the family, like, in the
They
last
didn't
night.
do
And I'm like,
nothing.
no, it's like he got drunk all the time. He started beating everybody because he was
They talk about
drowning.
that. They talk about that in the book, where they do talk about him and his wife actually do go too far.
Yeah,
And
but
say
they don't.
They say that they beat him so bad that they felt bad in the morning. So obviously they went a little overboard. They had a little too much to drink, and the Lutzes kind of beat their children, and they wrote about it in a book.
I like to feel that my dad had that same sentiment a lot. Like, he would wake up the next morning and be like, goddamn, sorry, son, because he definitely didn't give a fuck at the time.
And then the other point I was gonna make is the tropes. The tropes that come from this.
Oh, the Phantom trope.
Just all of it. That's a Phantom troop. You're so close. You're so close. I'm right
It's
there
a
with
play
you.
on words. Come on, you get it.
I get it. Okay, so the trope of the spiritual paranormal events that came out of this movie and book and series, The Exorcist, you're dealing with straight up demons. Like, that coming in, like that little girl's being possessed by the devil himself. Pazuzu. But Pazuzu. Don't say his name. Say his name 3 times, and guess what? He's gonna pop out your fucking dick hole and be like, surprise, and then go back.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Yeah, and then just pop right back out like a fucking xenomorph baby. But the tropes that came from this, it is astounding. The 315. That wasn't a thing before. It's not like at any point in time in The Exorcist did you ever see a clock. Promise. Bet. The only thing you're seeing is a sundial. I promise. When they're in Egypt, all you're seeing is
it takes place in like fucking
Morocco or some
Where
crazy.
does it take place after that when they come back?
Like London, New York.
Is it New York?
Maybe.
I don't remember.
I
I
don't
thought
know.
it was
It's
California always.
Been a bit since I've seen that movie.
Dude,
with
The
Reagan.
Exorcist starts so boring.
Oh, dude. Well, I don't know.
I love it, but
It's an iconic scene whenever she comes out and she's like, "Hey, everybody," and then pisses on the floor. But the thing with that is that they have a deleted scene. You have to watch the extended version where she crab walks up the fucking steps.
oh no shit.
Yeah, she
That would've been badass.
backwards crab walks up the fucking steps, and her mom watches it and she's like, "All right, I need to call somebody."
That would
Like,
have been fucking freak. Could you imagine if you went home and Callan was doing that?
I'd beat him with a belt. Just beat him real hard. Just beat the shit out of him. Just to like beat the demons out,
Look, I don't even feel bad for the Lutz kids. They were obviously seeing them be possessed, so they beat the fucking demons out of them.
That's what they were trying to do, and that's what the Bible teaches us, Dylan.
to beat the demons out of our
beat
kids.
the demons out of our kids with switches and.
We're supposed to take them up a hill and almost murder them, and then we're supposed to
That's
take them
the
home and
only
beat the
way
living
the
fuck
Lord
out of 'em.
shows His love. Come on! I
love
thought you were.
religion.
Oh, me too.
It's so fun.
This is the story of the Amityville horror and haunting. Let's get into it.
Our story starts with Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. He was a 23-year-old Long Island man who lived at home with his mother, Louise, and his father, Ronald the Sr., a.k.a. Big Ronnie, 43 both respectively. His sisters, Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, and his 2 younger brothers, Mark, who was 12, and lastly, making 6 total victims of this story, John, who was the 9-year-old last brother. Before we get into the murders, we need to talk a little bit about Butch and the family themselves. Big Ronnie, his father, was a classic example of the Italian business owner father with a lot of money and a lot of anger issues. There was abuse that not only people in the house knew no bounds, people that were just witnesses and friends and family saw the amount of abuse that Ronnie dished out to everybody in the house.
Care. He didn't care.
Oh, no, because it was the 50s at the time when Ronnie was first born. Little Ronnie, Butch. I'll call him Butch so we don't get him confused. It'll be Ronnie and Butch. Mm-hmm. But Butch, he was the oldest at the time, and he was born in the 50s. So in the 50s, man, to your dad who owns a car shop, possibly has mob affiliations.
Money.
Yeah, money for days. He even ended up, it's funny because he even wrote a song.
He wrote a song?
He wrote a song in the 50s or 60s to try and get Louise back because he beat her so many times. So he wrote a song. I think it's called like The Real One on the album. One is the most lonesome number, or most lonely number, or something.
Is the
No, I don't think it's that one.
number that you'll ever do.
And that was later on down the line. But to start, they had Butch, and Butch he he is a troubled kid from the start.
Fucking asshole.
You're rich. Your dad beats you. You're kind of weird. You're a little pudgy kid because he only grew up to be 5'8", so he wasn't huge. What do you expect? So he had his problems. Then he grows up. He has a strong dislike for for basically everybody in his family. His dad beat him all the time and he hated it. His mom, he actually really loved his mom. You hear from a lot of multiple sources that he actually cared for Luis a ton. And that's one of those things that we'll later get into the conspiracy part when we get into it, where that's why a lot of people think there was more people there, because he was only supposed to kill his dad. I think he just had a breakdown and wanted to kill his father.
I want to go. I like right now want to go into that. I'm gonna like bite my urges because like you brought this up, and I actually have a legitimate question about that. But we're gonna say that.
Yep. And so before we get to the actual murders and the conspiracy that I really want to get into as well, I'm gonna try and calm it down and keep it to the bare minimums of what we need to know. Ronnie beat his family all the time. Luis loved her son and daughters. She was an okay mom, but she was basically a prisoner in the house.
Well, yeah, that's why she stepped out quite a bit, because she understood the abusive relationship and she wanted, something other than what she had.
Yeah, I could only imagine. It sounds like a terrible fucking time to be a woman in the 50s, that's for sure.
But he has money, so what are you going to do? And you have security. You have a family. Like, back in those days, like, you didn't get divorced. This is Henry VIII status. Like, he's chopping your head off or you're stuck there.
And like you said, he has money. He has all the money. He made sure that he controlled everything. That's another thing that, people will say, oh, Butch was 23. Why didn't he just go? He didn't have to murder every one of his family members. Why didn't he just go? Well, his dad owned a car shop. If he tried to leave, his dad would take his engine out of his car.
Yeah.
If he tried to go, he'd take away his allowance. And Butch didn't have a job. He would be working for his dad.
For the dealership, he'd be set.
Exactly. So his allowance would get cut. He would lose everything. He wouldn't be able to buy any drugs, which would be a huge thing that would keep him around, because if he had his allowance, he could get drugs. And he
loved drugs.
He was a heroin, he was a speed, and acid addict. He was always on one of the three.
That's nuts. I didn't know anything about that, but I knew he had drug problems.
Yes, those were the three that he was.
I didn't know he was doing three of them. I thought it was just heroin.
No, because and that's another thing I want to get into, but we gotta wait just a few more minutes.
God, this is so suspenseful.
I know, isn't it? Because the acid leads into a lot of things possible. Obviously, it's an hallucinogen, so you see shit all the time. So if he was on it the night of his murders, what could he see and hear? And we'll get into it. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about Butch's relationship with his sisters and his brothers. He kind of hated his little brothers. He thought they were pigs. He hated that he'd share a bathroom with them, and they were gross apparently, and he hated it. He resented them. So it was kind of like, he was like, kind of like, fuck them kids for those two.
I would too, especially if I'm doing all those drugs.
His sister Dawn and him had a pretty close relationship. And then we get into his relationship with his 13-year-old sister. We don't really actually hear a lot about anything with them, but Butch and Dawn were pretty close, and he was pretty close with his mom, so I want to assume that he was pretty close with all the women in his family. Probably. It was probably just a hatred for males that was just kind of instilled in him because of his horribly abusive father. And like I said, we already talked about how he would just control everything, the money, the cars, everything, that you couldn't get away. And Butch was 23, and he just snapped one day. That day was in 1974. It was a rainy night. He walks down to the local bar where a bunch of his friends are, actually, funny enough. And he walks in and he legitimately says, "I think my mom and dad have been shot."
How do you think? How do you go into a place and go, I think someone's been killed?
Well, I smelled some gunpowder and I saw some red stuff, and They didn't respond when I kicked him in the head.
I don't know, man. I'm fucking dripping balls, dude. I walked into my house and there was just fucking shit everywhere, man. You wouldn't fucking believe, dude, if you just opened up your third fucking eye and you would fucking see, man, all the fucking blood everywhere. Now, I don't know if it was me tripping on these 10 hits of acid. I definitely fucking didn't do. But it could also be the fucking leprechaun I'm seeing in the corner giving me the middle finger.
Oh, shit. If you take his gold, he's going to hunt you down.
That's all I fucking need in this.
So after he says, I think my mom and dad have been shot, he piles into the car with all of his buddies, and they go down a block to his house. They drive a block to his house. That's how you know they're from New York, especially Long Island, because they're morons. They're idiots. All of them. So they drive down there. They get out. They go inside. And they figure out for sure that they're dead. Maybe Butch thought he was just tripping really hard and that he just thought they were dead, you know?
I put a gun to the back of them, and I pulled the trigger a couple times. They might be dead. One of them might be alive. I'm not sure. I even did one executioner style, and they might still have a chance. I don't know.
After confirming that his family was dead, they finally called the police. They obviously took Butch into custody because he was the only one alive out of his 6 other family members.
I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. He's like, you know what? I just killed everybody. I'm going to go check out the local bar, maybe get a drink and tell everybody about it.
Well, he said he wasn't there for dinner that night, so he came home because his mom was a terrible cook. So he came home and he said, I came home and I saw him and my whole family was shot, I think. He goes over to the bar, and that's just weird. I could never imagine. Like, why would you go to the bar first thing?
Thank you. That was my question. Why the bar? Why not, like, I don't know, anywhere else?
Well, who are you going to call, I guess? Your mom?
Ghostbusters.
Nice.
You set that up, bro. I couldn't, like, not spike that down.
Who are you going to call? Like, your family? You just
fucking
slaughtered them.
in cold blood.
Yeah. But like I said, he was on a mix of drug cocktails. Obviously, they said that he was some kind of inebriated when he was arrested when they were questioning him. He sat there for 12 hours in the interrogation room, and the cops, while he was doing this, were dealing with a murder scene that was like absolutely the craziest thing that has almost ever been seen. There was 6 dead bodies in this house. Brothers, his 2 sisters, and his 2 parents, all dead, all laying on their backs or on their fronts.
They were
shot in the back.
So they were laying on their bellies, and they were all shot in the back, except for the mom, who was shot in the back of the head.
Yeah,
she was the only one. The only one.
Because there is evidence that would show that the mom and the 13-year-old daughter were awake at the time of being shot. Those were the only 2 that show evidence of being awake. The father and the brothers, they all show evidence of being asleep when they were murdered. The mom and the 13-year-old were not.
That would make sense because they were like, you know, if the father was the first target and we shot dad and then mom wakes up from her drug-induced coma that he put her in, she shoots up and he freaks out because he's probably tripping his fucking ass off. He's going to pull the trigger.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, great, I killed my mom and dad. What do I do now? My brother and sister aren't going to be able to survive without my mom and dad. I better kill them too. And that's probably what he fucking did. And then he shot another family member, and the sister wakes up and she runs down the hallway and she's like, oh my God, Butch, what's going on? Why do you have a gun? Why are you coming at me? And why are you covered in blood? Boom. Sister's gone. Puts her back in the bed. That's all. Like, this whole thing is so fucking gruesome, and especially for the time period. I mean, yes, this is the ramp up for serial killers.
Well, yeah, it's not pre-serial killer, but it's pretty fucking close.
This is ramp up. This is when they're at their fullest, dude. This is when serial killers are fucking everywhere at this point in time.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mid-70s. Yeah, because we covered Alcala, and he was in prison at the time. Bundy was doing his thing at this time. The Hillside Stranglers, Son of Sam,
Night Stalker, dude. They were all out there at this point in time, and like the fact that we have this crazy ramp up, and we've got this drug-addled kid who is sick of his family, he's sick of his dad, always coming home drunk from the bar, beating his fucking ass because guess what? You looked at him wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And you have the idea that you can't leave him because he's your meal ticket. So you're just waiting for this fucker to die.
Oh yeah.
Speed it up. Speed it up. That's his mindset. Pulls the fucking trigger on dear old dad to get that life insurance. Mom wakes up, bam, dead.
I don't even think he was smart enough to think about life insurance. I honestly think it was just he just hated his dad so much, and he was so fucked up one night. Because we'll get into it in just a second, actually. Let's stop. Let's take a look at what we got right now. We have 6 dead family members.
6.
2 of them showed signs of being awake. All the rest of them showed signs of being asleep when they were murdered. Mm-hmm. We only know that Butch was there. We know that Butch was there alone, technically. That's what we know is that he was the only convicted killer. Mm-hmm. He went in and supposedly killed his family.
Yep.
Somehow he killed 3 people while they were all... Well, 2 of them were still asleep.
Definitely,
I don't understand how.
Definitely
it's
checks
weird.
out. It checks out.
But then he leaves, he comes back, and then he goes to the bar, and now we have people looking at this murder with obvious, like, not paranormal yet, but obviously suspicious, like, circumstances around how one guy did all this.
Why would one guy kill his entire family?
And nobody heard it. Oh, there's plenty of reasons.
Yeah, well,
Family annihilation is like huge.
Well, yeah, I know that, but like at this point in time, like that's probably the mindset. It's not like where we're at, where it's like, oh, we've seen this 100 different times. We know how this works. You can't Chris Watts your way into any situation without being caught these days. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry, like back then that wasn't something that everybody fucking did all the time.
I know,
and.
It happened more often than you think, though.
Yeah, I'm sure it fucking did, but like at this point in time, that's not the go-to. It's not
like,
in
Amityville, Long Island, or in Amityville, New York.
No,
this
was
at least
nice,
not there.
Rich, uppity family in a nice. Think about a gated community without the gate, dude.
Yeah, basically.
This is everybody around you is making fucking hella money.
As nice as you can make Long Island trash, truly.
Yeah. I can't even imagine what they paid for that house in general.
Oh, they were pre-Jersey Shore people. Like, I totally like think that they were like the prototypes for like Jersey Shore. Like just tons of drugs, tons of party, tons of monies to just throw away. The family like being so close and shit like that, and then it just seeped its way through the Eastern Seaboard.
Yep.
Can't stand Guidos.
That show, we're not going to get into it. Just delete that.
Yeah, that's totally a different haunted fucking thing to talk about.
Yeah, I got that as nightmares.
So we have him in custody now, doing his interrogation. Your whole family's dead. We're going to go over the stories now that he would give. There's countless. There's so many stories that he gives. But I singled out, I think, 3 that we're going to talk about that are the most viable, and it will go over what he eventually says that he did. So there's the we'll start with the fun one because I like it. They haven't gotten into the ghosts yet. We haven't gotten into demons or anything like that yet. So here's scenario 1. Butch says the night of the murders, him and Dawn were watching a movie and they were hanging out. She went upstairs and we don't know what they said or did or anything like that. But after a few hours, he's sitting there down alone in the basement. I want to say he's tripping on acid.
Probably.
And he starts hearing voices of his family saying that they're going to kill him. He attests to this.
So we've talked about this on the show whenever I said that I've done hallucinogens like mushrooms and I've done a little too much. You hear people talking that aren't speaking. I thought one guy wanted to fight me, and I was like his friend, and I was like, dude, if you want to take this outside, we can go outside. I'm tripping my ass off right now, but like, I'll put up my dukes, man. I don't give a fuck. And he was like, bro, I'm not even talking. I'm watching this movie. We're watching Dazed and Confused right now. What's going on with you right now? I'm like, all right, I am on too many drugs.
Yep.
So that happened.
So yeah, and that's the thing. With us being seasoned drug users.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, yeah. All right, yeah.
With us being fun seasonal or
recreational,
fun recreational drug users, we know what it's like to be under hallucinogen. So that checks out, like you said. And then the gun that was used was a 30-30 Marlin lever action rifle. I don't know a ton about guns.
I don't know shit about guns.
But I know that a lever action rifle is pretty fucking loud, and a 30-30 is a pretty big caliber. So it's fucking it should have been heard. The neighbors never heard any gunshots that night. Nobody attests to hearing any gunshots.
So people like the father, when he got shot twice. There was 2 bullets in him. So he bam bam.
So there was at least like 8 shots.
Yeah.
This night.
Yeah.
So
and not a single fucking person. Like, granted, it was at 3:15, which was a nice touch by the Lutzes, but it was at 3:15 when all this happened, and nobody fucking woke up during all this. What did he do? Poison the whole fucking neighborhood?
I was gonna say they either had Amityville was either the most fucking like sound sleeping fucking town.
Everybody's on
the entire world. Yeah, I was gonna say, or they were all just on like the wildest drug cocktails because they just apparently nobody heard it this night. So we get 8 shots that night. Nobody hears anything, and that's kind of weird. But before that, Butch is downstairs and he's still tripping balls. And he says that the gun itself, the 30-30 Marlin, was given to him by a demon in black robe with black hands, like black gloves on their hands, and he couldn't see the face. Like a demon came out of the wall and gave him the gun to commit the murder.
Yeah, so he was either schizophrenic at this point in time, and he's doing a bunch of drugs, which cannot be helping the situation at all. Like, I feel like if I had schizophrenia and I took acid, it would be the most wild trip I've ever been on in my entire fucking life. Like, the people that are talking aren't talking. The people that are in my head talking, they're like screaming at me at this point in time. But I think he just did too many drugs, found a gun, and then just said, "Hey, dude, that's wild." And now he's got a gun. He's like, "All right, conscious, you just take the wheel and I'll just fucking pull the action." You know what I'm saying? I'll just do it.
Oh yeah, because when we'll later find out that when the court the court psychiatrist that was looking after him, he definitely was not schizophrenic. He was just a heavy drug-using, antisocial personality disorder person. And if you know anything about that, it does not make you hallucinate or make you hear things. It just makes you kind of a dick.
Yep.
So he was just kind of a dick. So he's given the gun by the demon, and he goes upstairs, and he kills 6 people. And then he goes out. He sleeps the night off. And at 6:30 the next day, he goes to the bar. Cops are called shortly after. He's arrested. That's the story that he gives the cops. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that one goes. Second story he gives is him and Dawn actually murdered their family together.
Planned it together. Yeah.
So that night when they were watching movies, they must have been talking about it because Dawn apparently wanted to move to Florida with a boyfriend at the time. And well, she wanted to do something with a boyfriend. I think it was like move away or something like that. She wanted to move away with like a boyfriend at the time, and her father wouldn't let her. So she now had a reason to hate her dad, and I'm sure she probably got the abuse and shit too, but she had a reason in the time to be like, I hate him so much, I could kill him. So they're sitting down there, they're talking, and they're like, you know what? Dad's gotta go. Mm-hmm. So they go and they commit these murders at the same time. They plan to kill the dad. Dawn ends up killing the mom that Butch loves so much. Mm-hmm. He has to kill Dawn, and then there's 3 children left. He can't keep them alive. Mm-hmm. So he has to kill the rest of the family. Yeah. And then he gets arrested.
Yeah.
So that's the most plausible one in my opinion, because I don't want to discredit demons, but I'm going to say that the first one is a little implausible. The second one is definitely more plausible. Mm-hmm. The third one, and the one that he gave like initially at the house, was that a mob hitman came and whacked his whole family.
Yep.
Louis Fellini, actually.
He gave a name and everything?
Oh, yeah. He was.
What do you know what he looks like?
I don't know what Louis Fellini looks like. I know that the officers said that Butch said that Ronnie called him a cocksucker one time, and that's why he killed the whole family.
Okay, that makes sense.
But Louis Fellini was actually called in and had an alibi. So that one was kind of shit right away.
He was drowning another person. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Massive drug deals, drowning people. He was doing other things.
I really wanted to know what his alibi was. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I'm like, they said like he had an alibi. So they like, he snitched and brought this motherfucker in, and he was like, dude, I didn't even do this one.
I had people all around me at all hours of the day.
So those are the three biggest ones. The mob hitman, which was discredited right away.
Oh yeah.
The demon one, which unfortunately in court and fucking in real life, unfortunately, is just not the most plausible one. And then the second one, which only Butch can attest to, is that him and Dawn killed the family together, but Dawn's dead. So
see what you'll
it's
learn.
just his
What you'll
words.
learn about this story is it's a lot of you taking shady words from shady people and accepting it as truth, because like, what else are you gonna go after? Like, what else is there to show you that didn't happen?
Exactly, and that ultimately is why a court saw that Butch was Ronald DeFeo Jr. was sentenced to 6 consecutive 25-year to life sentences for killing his entire family, and he stayed in jail and died
2016.
Yep, 2016.
Yeah.
So
Got my dates. They're up there, dude.
yeah, hell yeah, you did your research. And so he got his life sentences. There's 3 possible stories in the end. Unfortunately, like I said, in the end, he said that the murder took place. There was 3 of us there that killed everybody. He doesn't name the other person. He says that it was the other one might have been Dawn, and then in court he retracts all of it and back forth flip flops. He's a character. If you ever want to see anything kind of funny, go watch some of his interactions on YouTube with his with the attorneys and stuff. He is quite a character for the time being, but he rots in jail, and all we can go off of is his word that him and 2 other people killed his whole family.
Yep.
So he was convicted in 1974. No, in 1975. The murders took place in 74. And not even a year after he was convicted, we get the Lutz family moving in. And that's where the Amityville horror story actually starts.
Dun dun.
As we were saying earlier, the DeFeos only played a small part in this story. But what comes out of it, and their part of the story that is actually huge to this, is Butch DeFeo's defense attorney, William Weber. He came out they moved into the house of his defendant, Butch DeFeo, right after the murders, basically. And with that, they moved into, what is it? It's 112 Ocean Avenue.
112 Ocean Avenue. Dylan, play Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card.
Nice. So they move into 112 Ocean Avenue right after these murders. They get such a good deal on it because, they sit down, they deliberate as if, should we do this? Do you guys care if we do this? Are you superstitious? They say, no, we're not. This would be cool. Let's move in. So they get a great deal on the house. They move in right after these people are slain. They last 28 days in this house.
28 fucking days. And like I was talking to Dylan earlier, there are some loans that you can back out within 30 days to get your money back out of the house. So this story already screams it's a big fucking lie.
But the stuff that makes it not seem like a lie is what we're going to get into right now. So the defense attorney, William Weber, finds out that this family, after 28 days, left his defendant's home claiming a haunting. So he thought, I can get with these people and I can try and use some of this in court to try and help win his case, or at least get DeFeo
A shorter sentence.
A shorter sentence, insanity, something like that. And so he goes into it and he talks to them, and he admits years later down the road to talking with them multiple times, showing them evidence, showing them crime scene photos, everything. And they met, I think it was in March, and they met 9 or 6 times, 9 or 13 times or some shit like that. He name dropped the number. It was boom, we met this many times and we talked about this, and we would get hammered on wine, and it was just fucking yada, yada, yada. And you just go on and on and on about it later on. But at the time, nobody knew any of this stuff. So they're talking, they're getting all this information. And he comes out and says, we should do a book.
Yeah. Money idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Every politician this year is doing that ever since the whole Trump administration. All of them. Dr. Fauci just dropped a book just by doing his thing. It makes so much sense because you make so much money off of a book that other people are writing for you.
Oh yeah, it's literally just are you, so you write a book because you got something to write about.
Yeah, you got,
and you're riding the wave.
Yeah,
that's
you're
the thing.
riding the coattails of a family annihilator. Like that's honestly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can not only get paid by one of the richest people in Amityville because now he's got his father's money. If it's insanity, you know, he's gonna get out, whatever. So you're getting money from him. You're getting money off a $5 million book deal, basically, from just writing what these people are. These crazy, stupid people are saying. Well,
not yet. This is before that because before we get into any book deals, Weber wanted to have Butch get some of the proceeds, and they were like, no. The Lutzes, Kathy and George said, no, we're not going to do it. So Kathy and George take their story, them and their 3 kids take their story to this guy, Jay Ansem, who gets a hold of him. Jay Ansem became one of the richest people to ever get into paranormal anything, paranormal writing, paranormal studies, paranormal anything. And he didn't even care about the shit. He just was like, I see money with this. So he got a hold of them. They had all this information from the defense attorney. So they're feeding all this information to him. He's like, we could turn this into, there was a lot of flies in this picture of the crime scene.
So there had to be a lot of flies they had to happen all the time. And you know what's crazy is that we discovered that in the Exorcist movie in the book, that when there's a lot of flies, there's demons. And it's like, boom, got a demon story. There's proof. If I need more, guess what? We can find it. It's all right here. It's all right here. And these people, all they do is they go in. This guy has a tape recorder. He gets George drunk a little bit. And he's like, tell your story, dude. Tells the story, boom, there's your book. All you got to type out is what he's fucking saying, but like coherently.
Mm-hmm.
When I read this book, I wanted to throw the goddamn book so many fucking times because like I would hear this shit like the slime is oozing from the walls. The light switch will flick on and off, on and off.
It's the hash-slinging slasher.
Hash-slinging slasher! So that's basically what they do, man. And they didn't make a lot of money. They made enough. Well, at that point in time.
Oh my God. You just blew my mind. Did SpongeBob reference The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Or Amityville?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Did that break you?
Whoa.
People are like, is this real?
That's crazy. Dude, I'm like, actually, like, I didn't even think. Look at the media it touches. Read into it.
There's 30 books. There's 30 books and or movies.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that story has produced a lot from it.
And it's all, like Tyler said, it's all just taking a story and running with it. And we find out, so let's go over a little bit of what the story entails of a haunting for these people. Some of it's pretty cool. The movie does it way better, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So I just want to go over the main haunting stuff because obviously you guys have heard the story. You know what happened. You've watched the movies. If you haven't, I'm quite literally shocked you are listening to this podcast.
We love Ryan Reynolds here.
I love Ryan
And
Reynolds.
if you don't get like a gist of that, because like the Ryan Reynolds movie doesn't even like touch the original. Like it doesn't. Like I love Ryan. I'll watch anything Ryan's in. I'll watch like his rom-coms and shit. But like that original movie, that shit was fucking real good.
Dude, the one thing I do like is how much they went into like the demon like possessing him in the fucking Ryan Reynolds one though, because that whole like secret room thing that they did with like the blood altars and shit, I was like, this is kind of cool.
So like that stuff, like whenever I was reading that book, I tried to have that movie in mind.
Yeah.
I tried really hard. I'm like, at any point in time, this dude's gonna fucking snap. And it never happens. Like they both get like cranky at each other. Like being in this house, they move in, weird stuff like doors flying open,
Immediately.
Yeah.
First day they move in, their dog tries to hang itself, and then after that it's just the gates are open.
Yeah. So like whenever you watch like something like the Ryan Reynolds Amityville horror movie, you have this expectation that this dude's just gonna fucking slowly but surely lose his shit. He's a nice guy. You can tell he's a nice guy from the start of it, but by like mid movie, he's trying to kill the entire family. With the actual story that's being told, he doesn't obsess with like the basement. Like he looks into it like a little bit. He's like, what's this room? It's red and it gave me the heebie-jeebies. And like that's cool and all. Like he like kind of like pokes his head in like, hey, this room is red. All right, bye. In the Ryan Reynolds movie, the rendition of that, Ryan is like sitting in front of a fucking couch in the basement, like trying to stay warm. And that does happen in the book. George is constantly fucking freezing. He's constantly cold. The family doesn't understand. They're like, yeah, it's kind of cold, but like, why are you like shivering and your face is turning blue? Like he's like honestly freaking out the entire time about how cold it is in the house, which I think is just him being picky. He's like, oh, it says it's 62.
But they said he was obsessed with chopping wood.
Oh yeah, and
they said that he would just chop fucking wood and he would put it into the fireplace and then he'd just sit there in front of it and he'd still just be cold to the fucking touch.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's where you really see how Hollywood they did this. Like Jay Ansem, he basically wrote a fucking movie. He didn't really write a book. He basically wrote a movie because the movie is basically a carbon copy of everything that he wrote, except for a few things, because they just, based on a true story, just means that those two people existed, that house existed, and that they are saying stuff happened. That is it.
And if you read the book, if you read the epilogue, a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, oh, I finished the book. If you read the epilogue, he even admits it in the epilogue. He's like, yo, this stuff, like, it might have happened. It could have happened. I'm just writing what they said. They said this stuff, and I believe them. And that's all he had to put in there. And it's based on a true story.
Yeah, and to the screenwriter of the movie, he even said, it's up to the reader to decide if this is true or not.
That makes me so angry. How can you have based on a true story? Not based, but this is a true story. Like they branded it as this is a true story. These people were spooked out of their fucking house after moving into a murder's crime scene, basically.
Well, that's what this had over The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
This was based on something that happened. People knew these fucking people. People knew, like the Lutz family, when they kept that name for the movies and all that, like they knew. These people were known to people, so it's just one of those things that people bought it because they were riding the Exorcist wave, they were into ghosts. Devils and demons they were not like
they're not so prevalent.
They're not an enemy at the time. In the 50s and the 70s, they were not an enemy. When The Exorcist came out,
people
they gave
lost
form.
Their fucking mind.
Yeah, because demons because demons could possess your daughter. Because ghosts could take over and do stuff like in Poltergeist and destroy your house and take your daughter into a different dimension and all this wild shit because this book said it could. And then a book right after confirmed it can because it's based on a true story. So the green slime that they're seeing, the apparitions that they're seeing, George said that he woke up one night and he looked over at Kathy and she was 70 years old. She was like a decrepit old lady and she was levitating above the bed.
And then you also, like, I think another part of this book and this story is the fact that it follows a priest at the same time that it's following the Lutz family. When they move in and George is like, it's cold in here. I'm just going to keep throwing wood in here. And that's cool. Like, and then it jumps over and it's got this pastor. They call this pastor and this priest comes over and they're like, hey, can you bless the house? He blesses the house. And within 5 seconds of being in this house, he hears a manly voice going, get out. You hear this get out and then he gets slapped and then he goes home and then shit starts happening to him at his home.
He gets stigmata, and anybody who doesn't know, stigmata is the Jesus
holes.
Christ. It's when you get abrasions or boils or stuff on your hands where Jesus Christ was
Exactly.
Crucified? Yeah, where he was crucified. I don't read those kind of stories.
No, you're good. It's just a giant, the best fictional book I've ever read. Ever.
You read it?
No. Yes, I was in another time.
Okay.
But
respectable.
Yeah, it didn't even happen right directly after him being in the house. It happens, and then he gets into his car, and fucked up shit happens in his car, and he has to call another pastor to come get him.
Oh yeah.
And then shit starts happening to him. So now you've involved the church, which again gives this story right off the bat legitimacy. There is legitimacy right for the story itself.
I know. It's
not
just
for
funny for the time period because
Yes.
now you think like the church said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, the first thing I think is legitimate news.
Exactly. So like at this point in time, you're thinking in the 70s and you have these like buttoned up white collared families and they're like, oh shit, the church that we go to every Sunday, donate 15% of our paychecks to, they're in this now and they're actual real people. So obviously this had to happen. The fucking author didn't even bother to try to find the father and ask him questions about if it happened. He just took what they said to heart and made a book.
But the father went on interviews and talk shows and actually talked to people about it and said, yes, this happened. He went on to like,
Really?
yeah, they have interviews. It's like superimposed where like his face is all blacked out and shit because he's probably a pedophile. So they didn't like brand his face, but he's like talking, he's got the voice recorder thing and he's like, yes, I see, this stuff happened and I can attest to this and I was the father that did this. I think they call him like Father Ray or some shit like that. And then when he actually like was brought in to like court one day, like they like to attest to it, like he was like, no, this didn't happen. I was never there. I talked to them on the phone.
Put your
like,
fucking
twice.
hand on a Bible, you fucker.
Exactly, he does, and he's like, oh fuck, being a priest, I can't lie. He's like, well, yep, He's like,
This
I
did
talked
not
to him on
happen.
the phone. That's it. So we've got the priest who attests to all this, and turns out he's a liar. We have the Lutzes who attest to all this, and it turns out they're lying.
And then they have the police also in this book, that there are officers that have to make these checkups that do find them in certain situations where they're like, hey, this is fucking weird. Your door is ripped off the hinges. Why is that? Why is your garage, your boathouse door ripped off its hinges? You had to be super strong. Well, yeah, he's fucking cutting wood all day. He's fucking yoked. But I'm just saying, like, they have the police, in the story, they have the police very involved in it.
Yeah.
And the police couldn't be bothered to comment on it because they knew it was bullshit. They didn't bring him into court. They were just like, hey, did this happen? And it's like, I don't know. It might have. I don't know. No one's really commenting on it. So like, no, but like, sure.
Right. I mean, everybody was complicit in this, and that's why it sold so much. That's why it was such a big thing. And we've talked about the book. The movie comes out 2 years later. It has James Brolin and Margot Kidder in it, so the hype on it is just huge. The Lutzes don't even start going on like their like TV talk show circuit until after the movie and all this shit comes out. And the Lutzes actually even like George on camera and in interviews was even like, I wish they would have, not Hollywooded it up so much because what actually happened was more terrifying. So they do attest that stuff really did happen, but obviously
You have to stay in character though. At that point in time, you're so committed to the role and the thing that's tied to your name. Like if
he seemed remorseful about it. He seemed like he seemed truly like, yes, I said stuff, but like I didn't tell them all that. That is like the Hollywood movie. Like if they would have done it more like what actually happened, I would have felt better because this stuff affected our family.
Terrified the family.
And that's why another thing, yes, it came out as bullshit, but like they played their characters very well, and they had the best supporting actors when it came to that type of stuff. They had the best people behind him with Jay Ansem. Yeah, he fucked him over, and they made a little bit. They made a few $100,000, and he made
$300,000.
$300,000 from the book
got.
and from the movie. So
Yeah.
600 total, and he made millions from those. So.
And when you say it affected the family, like the kids, I don't know how. I mean, obviously they have to be involved in this at some point. Like, daddy's got to have a special sidebar talk with all the kids, the three kids, and be like, "Hey, someone asked you a question about this shit. Just tell them it's true," because the little girl, Missy, I think Missy. Yeah. So Missy, later down the road, when they ask her about her made-up imaginary pig friend, Jody, that the dad definitely apparently sees in Missy's window, she doesn't even like to talk about it. She just says, no comment. So like, I mean, that's all she has to say. People understand she was traumatized. They were little kids.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I like to think that the amount of stuff that was going on, true or not, the family was obviously under a lot of distress and a lot of stuff during the time that would negatively affect children. And if they never get told that stuff wasn't true, I could see it affecting them. I've never actually looked into I don't think I've seen anything about the kids on
they don't
any of the interviews or anything like that. So It's just kind of one of those things. But for the most part, as of the movie, everybody kind of thinks it's true, but it hasn't come out as bullshit yet. And when we're doing that, the thing that brought this into the paranormal world with some legitimacy is the biggest con artist in the whole.
Think about a whole team of Zach Baggins just in one room.
Yeah, think of a husband-wife Zach Baggins, and then you just make them a little British and a little ugly, and you get the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine. Ed and Lorraine Warren came right after the Lutzes left. They came right after, and
it was like a month after.
Yeah, it was like a month, and they brought a few other psychics and mediums,
and they had the news channel there
because of Lauren Didio. She was a reporter at the time, and she got a hold of them and wanted to be there for the seance. And it's really funny because what really kind of blew these guys out was this seance, because she even says on camera, and she admits to it, she's like, as a reporter, I can't, I didn't experience anything.
Yeah.
But all these people, they were really going through some stuff. It's a her.
Oh, so I thought, no, the cameraman.
Oh, the cameraman, yes.
The cameraman said that he had
chest pain.
Yeah, you know what Jay said in the epilogue was that he was a Marine veteran, and he had heart palpitations, and it even brought people that weren't a part of the sham into the field of being a part of the sham. And I feel like that's just all hype up. You have all these people in the room, and then you start panicking. Maybe that guy had anxiety. I mean, it's not like anxiety was really talked about in the fucking 70s.
Well, that's the thing. What makes this legitimate at the time is bringing in these people who were thought to be legitimate. Now we know that the Warrens were full of shit. They were Catholic superheroes. That's all they were.
Yep.
The Conjuring paints them as Catholic Superman and Catholic Wonder Woman. They come in and they save this family from all these curses and all these demons. And in reality, they walked through the Amityville whorehouse.
Took some pictures.
They took some pictures. They said that they had their episodes and felt some stuff.
Had a seance.
They had a seance, yes. And then, like I said, all of the people that are in the paranormal world said they felt something, and they felt evil in this house. When the one that wasn't, the reporter, said what she said, I just, as a reporter, I didn't, like I said, as a reporter, I did not.
I watched some shit. I watched some people freak out, but nothing really happened.
She's like, nothing that I seen affected them. So the one real legitimate nowadays believable source, which is a reporter over paranormal experts, she says nothing happened.
The Warrens actually try to back up their stuff. So the reason why the Warrens were able to get away with so much stuff back then, not only just because of the time frame, but because
the Warrens came in, they investigated, they did their seance, they all had their own experiences they told everybody about, but for the most part, there was nothing legitimate caught on camera or anything like that. There was a few photos that some of the interns and secretaries of some of the people would look at, and they would notice small things or feel some type of way. There was one lady who was pregnant that said that every time she looked at a picture, it was kind of unsettling. The baby she had in her tummy would kick. So little stuff like that, personal things to kind of make it seem more legitimate. But like I said, the family came out and they said that it was mostly bullshit. Everything that they ended up talking about was much more greatly exaggerated. They really didn't go through as much as they said they did. They had a few weird experiences that did haunt and make the family feel weird. But
so besides the cold atmosphere that George felt constantly, people that walked into their house, they were like, yeah, it's kind of cold, but whatever, it is what it is. We had a white face burnt onto the back of their fireplace, which to this moment I still don't understand why they just didn't get a picture if it was real.
No,
So-
there's a lot of things like that where I'm like, I understand.
We have the floating wife. We have the wife looking like an old lady. We have the daughter playing with an imaginary pig man named Jody that George does see on one of his boat adventures because he goes out to the ship house or whatever the hell it is, the boat house, constantly to check on his boat. And at 3:15, he's constantly waking up at this time, which I think is a synchronicity. I believe there were phantoms that they saw. They saw like apparition. Thank you. They saw apparition on the staircase. George would hear marching bands throughout the house. Voices were heard. Just a variety of stuff. I mean, it's just like everything you think that could be in a book or in a story about ghosts and people living in this house. Just they go through it, goo coming out of the fucking the floor and the walls and shit.
Flies attacking priests and
there's flies that constantly show up, burning, scratching marks. Everything that you think could be in a haunting came from this story. So
basically, this ends like the Amityville haunting. Like everything from now is
28 days
speculation.
And there, from what they say, a lot of crazy stuff happens. There's no proof. There's absolutely no proof in any of the stuff. Like we've said in the story, if you watch the movies and you're like, hey, it's a good movie, awesome. You got something out of it. Just know that the book is even as obnoxious as we're making it sound right now. That's how bad it is. When I was going through it today, there were so many points where I just wanted to throw the fucking book. I'm like, how can you sell people this shit? How can you sell people on this shit? I saw a goat man. They have a goat man situation, any kind of trope you can find from the story. The conspiracies now. I want to get into the conspiracies. So George Lutz owned a failing contractor company. It was failing. It was going to the ground. He was borrowing money from it. He was having run-ins with the IRS. He was having so many issues. So you also have this horrible event, and they see an opportunity. Let's move into this very cheap house because guess what? They just died in it. No one wants to live in a fucking house that people just died in, especially when they live in the town and they know the fucking story. So they move into this fucking cheap-ass house that they cannot afford. He's borrowing money from his failing business. His employees are getting fucking pissed at him. So what does he do? He cashes out on the opportunity of almost a lifetime that he absolutely fucking botches. This story is worldwide known. And a lot of people, I don't know. There's people that take this shit for truth. It's nuts. It is nuts. The writing is on the wall. But again, that's what the author wanted, the audience to be portrayed.
At the time, we have to be more lenient. Me and you, we like horror.
We are also hypercritical about this one situation. We came into the studio both laughing, I can't believe we just did this.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, this is why we're doing this as our first ghost story, because this is the one that is 100% provably to be not true for the most part. You can make an argument, but you can argue that the sky is not blue, it's teal. There's all these arguments that people can make and all that. When it comes down to it, there's multiple real life reasons why this family moved in, left in 30 days, and then made money off of it.
They got out of the loan or the mortgage. They scrapped and sold his family business. He came out on top so hard.
Oh yeah.
And it was all because he was failing and he was panicking and he rode this coattail. He's almost a genius if he wasn't such a piece of shit.
It's just at the time it was easier to do. Being the first of anything is something that'll get you notoriety. Usually comes with money, usually comes with talk shows, usually comes with movie deals,
and
stuff
they
like
got
that.
it all. They got it all.
They didn't get out as good. Excuse me. They didn't get out as Jay Ansem, but the Lutzes, nonetheless, this was the defining thing of their life. They were the family behind the Amityville Horror, and the Amityville Horror itself cannot be understated for what it did for the belief in paranormal, for what it did for the church, for what it did for movies and books, and I think honestly it'll be something fun to to compare this story to the ghost stories we're going to do later, and then to having the interview next week. So,
which should come out in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Should come out in 3 weeks.
So you guys have gotten a taste of the little hauntings and stuff like that. We obviously have disproven it. Most people have disproven it. We're just riding off of what they said.
Debunked.
Yeah. Somebody get the stamp. Debunked. And that's our take on the Amityville horror. It's a fun story nonetheless. The movies are good. The book was great for its time.
And if you're at home and you're like, these people just don't believe in ghosts, we started this whole episode by talking about it. I do. I genuinely believe in ghosts. Dylan's kind of on the fence, but he thinks that there could be something out there. Kinetic energy, whatever it is.
You definitely can't say that we're skeptics because of our beliefs. We're skeptics because most of the live people involved in this are hoaxes and con artists. So.
And they fucking, like, people like Zach Baggins.
I love Zach Baggins.
But he's such a fucking con artist,
I love
man.
him so much.
Okay. So you guys have obviously noticed that probably some of our true crime episodes haven't been really coming through lately. We're human. We're human. We're doing our thing. We've got lives outside of the show. So it is kind of hard to sometimes get together. So while, yes, I live right down the road from Riley, Dylan and Talon live halfway across town right now. So just be patient with us. We are coming out with better and new content for the True Crime Show. Thank you guys so much for your patience. If you want to go ahead and check us out on all of our social medias, Men of Misfortune at pretty much anywhere. If you just type our name in, you're going to find us. If you want to send us like a personal email, go ahead and send us an email at menofmisfortune@gmail.com. We've got a Patreon with extra content. Dylan is editing. We're pulling out all the bonus content. We're going to start uploading more soon. We normally do about once a month. We'll upload an episode on our Patreon. We've got bonus content. We've got soon-to-be videos of Dylan and Mason playing games. We've got merch deals. Whatever media platform you're on right now, look at your phone. You're looking at your phone. You're holding your phone. Look at your phone. Look at your phone. There's a plus. Hit it. Whatever it is, follow. Don't care. Just hit it. Follow us. I am your fearless leader, Tyler Campbell.
And I'm the intern, Dylan.
Stay chaotic. And remember to always stay chaotic.
And listen to Mom.
And we're out.